I'm Jami Shapiro, and welcome to Grandma Has ADHD. I'm a certified senior move manager and owner of Silver Linings Transitions, where I help people navigate life's big transitions. But here's the thing. I spent years helping families move through change while completely missing the pattern that was running through my own life. I'm the daughter of 2 ADHD parents, the mother of 3 ADHD children, and yep, I have ADHD too. For years, I didn't have the language or understanding for what that meant. But becoming an ADHD coach and specialist, that's been absolutely game-changing. Not just for how I work with my clients, but for how I relate to my family, and honestly, for how I understand myself. I even wrote a book about it called This Explains So Much. This podcast is for all of us who are discovering ADHD later in life. Each week, I bring you conversations with industry experts and people sharing their own ADHD journeys, real stories, real strategies, and often a little too much information. If you're loving what you're hearing, please share this podcast, leave us a review, and find me at jamishapiro.me. That's JAMISHAPIRO.me. Whether you're over 50 and just getting diagnosed, or you're recognizing patterns you've lived with your whole life, this is your space to navigate ADHD with others who get it. So grab your coffee and get comfortable, and let's dive in. A little while back, This Explains So Much came out in audio format, and I don't think everyone caught it. So consider this your gentle reminder. Since the book came out, I've heard from so many of you. One listener told me, I feel so seen. This book explains so much. Another said, it feels like a knowing nod from a friend who gets it. The honesty, the humor, putting words to things you've felt for decades but never quite named. If you've ever wondered why your mind works the way it does, why you do the things you do, this book is for you. And you can listen to it in my own voice whenever and wherever works for you. Head to Amazon and search This Explains So Much to grab the audiobook. Welcome to the Grandma Has ADHD podcast. I am so excited about today's guest because we are going into some territory that I know many of you have lived, that profound, disorienting experience of losing yourself. And more importantly, we're going to talk about how to find your way back. Virginia Wilczek is a licensed marriage and family therapist in the San Diego area and the founder of the Transcending Pathway, a group practice built around one powerful mission, helping people reconnect with who they actually are. She is also a certified breathwork trauma facilitator, which means the work she does goes beyond talk therapy. It's about creating real embodied change, not just insight, but true integration. The Transcending Pathway specializes in some of the heaviest things humans carry: complex PTSD, depression, anxiety, grief, loss of identity, and healing from pathological love relationships, including those involving narcissistic, antisocial, or psychopathic traits. If you've ever felt like a relationship or a series of them slowly dismantled who you were, Virginia's work was built with you in mind. What I love about Virginia and her team is that their why runs deep. Every clinician she has handpicked shares not only exceptional professional training, but lived experience navigating their own trauma, challenges, and difficult relationships. That combination of credentials and compassion, that's the good stuff. You can learn more and connect with Virginia at thetranscendingpathway.com, thetranscendingpathway.com, and we'll spell that out at the end of the podcast. And you can check out her workshops at thetranscendingpathway.com workshops. And you can find her on Instagram at the Transcending Pathway. Virginia, that's a lot. Hi, welcome to the Grandma podcast.
Thank you so much. It's great to be on here. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And so first of all, tell me a little bit more about you than what we're reading in the bio.
Ooh, okay. Well, to go a little deeper into it, I know the bio does a lovely job describing the practice and kind of going deeper into why I built the practice. So I was actually brought up and raised by a narcissist. And I can go down the criteria and the list. He was more on the violent side, which is why I dedicated my life basically. And this is such a passion for me to be able to provide services and space for individuals who have gone through pathological love relationships. Like, I'm an adult child of an emotionally immature parent. And, that's something that a lot of people don't really talk about. They talk about, their childhood or depression and anxiety. But what I love talking about, and from my lived experiences, well, I wasn't in the pathological love relationship, but I was a product of it. And what is that like on my journey to my own healing?
Okay. Well, I'm going to lay something deep on you. And this is what I love about the podcast, because I get to meet people and just have real, authentic conversations. But I have read that book too. And I was also raised by a narcissistic parent, although actually a narcissistic parent and a step parent who was also narcissistic. One was violent and one was not. And so I didn't recognize the narcissism because I only thought it was like the mean narcissism. But I'm also noticing that a lot of people with ADHD end up in relationships with narcissists. Is that a thing that you're noticing?
Yes and no. And I love that question. One of the things that I have been finding in my practice more and more, and I don't know if it's just coincidental or because of my journey and maybe the newer lenses that I see people in life through, is ADHD and trauma are closely linked because of the way that it shows up in individual impulsivity, emotional dysregulation, the executive functioning piece.
I used to dread visiting my mother. Because of the clutter, the piles, the chaos, we all experience clutter differently. For me, it was a source of anxiety and stress. I'd try to help and she'd get defensive. We were both frustrated and it was destroying our relationship. Then we discovered something that changed everything. My mother had ADHD and she'd been living with it undiagnosed for over 76 years. Suddenly, it all made sense. The clutter wasn't laziness. The disorganization wasn't a choice. Her brain was wired differently, and no amount of willpower or traditional organizing advice was ever going to work. That discovery became my life's work. It's why I started the Grandma Has ADHD podcast. It's why I became an ADHD coach and specialist. And it's why I am so passionate about helping women like my mother and maybe like you. Because here's what I know. Clutter affects us emotionally and physically. It damages relationships, it creates shame spirals, and the overwhelm of not knowing where to start keeps you frozen. But it's okay to ask for help. In fact, it's brave. If you're in the San Diego or Coachella Valley area, my team at Silver Linings Transitions can come to your home. We'll help you tackle the clutter with compassion, not judgment. I also work with women virtually through one-on-one ADHD coaching. And if you are overwhelmed with clutter, I can connect you with trusted resources in your area. Visit jamishapiro.me to get started or grab my book, This Explains So Much, on Amazon. My mother and I got our relationship back. You can get your peace back too. That's JAMISHAPIRO.me. Moving can feel overwhelming, whether you're downsizing, relocating, or helping a loved one transition. There are so many decisions to make, details to handle, and emotions to navigate. At Silver Linings Transitions, we believe every move should be magical, not stressful. We're more than movers. We expertly guide you through the entire process and do our best to alleviate your concerns. From the moment we meet, you'll feel comfortable because we will listen to your needs and wants and work together to create a personalized plan that honors your memories and your cherished belongings while helping you embrace your next chapter. We visit your new space and create a detailed floor plan, ensuring your furniture and treasured belongings will fit safely. We handle the logistics so you don't need to worry about anything, from sorting and packing to coordinating the sale and donation of unwanted items. Our professional team uses efficient, eco-friendly bins and handles every detail with care. We coordinate with our vetted moving partners, oversee the logistics, and ensure nothing is left behind, even packing your refrigerator items. Here's where the magic happens. We don't just unpack. We recreate the feeling of home. Using photos from your previous space, we thoughtfully arrange your furniture, hang your pictures, and set up your kitchen and bathroom so everything feels familiar from day one. When you walk into your new space, it's not just moved in, it's home. Your coffee pot is ready, your favorite photos are perfectly placed, your bed is made, and your new chapter begins with comfort and joy instead of chaos. This is how Silver Linings Transitions makes moves magical. We handle the emotional lifting and the logistics so you can focus on what matters most, settling into your new home. Because every move deserves a silver lining. Hi, I'm Jami Shapiro. I am an ADHD coach and the founder of Silver Linings Transitions, where we do home organizing and move management. And, I did not know that I had ADHD for years. And I remember personally hiring an organizing company to come in and help me because I could just never get it together. And it really wasn't until I understood ADHD and its impact that I realized why. And so I wrote a book, This Explains So Much, Understanding Undiagnosed ADHD, because I just feel like there's so many answers that people don't even know that they're looking for, especially generations of women who grew up thinking that ADHD was just for the hyperactive little boy. It turns out it's not only a body that can be hyperactive, but it can be a mind that's hyperactive. So you can have a wonderful day and you can have something wonderful happen, and then that one negative thing that happens is going to be the thing that takes you into that spiral, and it's going to be keeping you up at night, and you're going to be ruminating on it. And I think that, we as women carry so much shame and so much how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to have it together. And I remember that was the case for me. I remember, how is it that all of these women have so much consistency and their kids get the sticker charts and everything seems to run well, and I'm the one that's missing parent-teacher conferences and my house, is always in chaos. And then again, that negative self-talk. So my mission is really to educate people who have no idea that ADHD has the impact that it does. And it's to connect you to other people who get it and who will make you feel that you aren't alone, you're not crazy, you're not lazy, you're not stupid, you're not too much. You just have a brain that was wired differently. And I can't wait for you to join me in the community that I'm building, the workshops that I'm creating, the book club that I'm hosting, because I know that I am going to make a profound difference in your life. So we took a little bit of a pause because we were having some sound quality issues, and I love ADHD, and I'd say I'm an expert at that, but I am not an expert on technology. So bear with us. But you were just saying that you felt that a lot of people with ADHD had trauma. Rephrase it for me, because kind of lost it in that break.
So there's close links to ADHD and trauma, and the way that it presents itself with the emotional dysregulation, the impulse control, and the executive functioning. And it's taking those two things into consideration. It's like the chicken or the egg, nurture versus nature. It's one of those things that it's still up for debate, but it is becoming a topic that people are starting to research and pay a little more attention to.
So I'm
Now,
going to throw my theory out at you. And it is because I discovered that I had ADHD when my oldest child was diagnosed, but it did not even occur to me that my mother had ADHD. And then when I realized that she had ADHD, then I realized the impact that it had on my childhood. And then I looked back at her parents and realized the impact that their emotional dysregulation had on her. So I'm going to argue maybe it's nature. Maybe, it's ADHD is highly heritable. And emotional dysregulation is absolutely a struggle. Impulsivity is a struggle. So could it be that we were parented by people who didn't have the tools to be the safe, stable parents that a child needs to develop a secure attachment?
absolutely, yes. So if you look at ancestral trauma or generational trauma, what you just said explains some of the theories. It's if you didn't have a safe environment, then your body learned to adapt and survive rather than regulate. If you had parents or caregivers that were not attuned to you, then how could you attune to yourself? How could you regulate? If you had chaotic environments or neglect, then you are constantly scanning for safety. So why would you focus? Why would you have good an attention span if you had to constantly be searching and looking for things to keep yourself safe? So yes, growing up with the parent who has ADHD or had trauma, that's going to represent kind of this petri dish for individuals and the way that they grow up. And that's why trauma and ADHD closely resemble each other, because it's the three main factors that play into each. So the answer is kind of both. It's neurological, it's biological, it's developmental, and it's also how we were raised.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you've heard of the book, A Hunter in a Farmer's World, and I'm absolutely paraphrasing it for you, but something to the effect of people with ADHD have brains that were not meant for the mundane, like kind of like we were the hunters and the ones that were, surveying the environment and making sure that it was safe. And then, you take how we had to live and you bring it into farming and boring. And so, I'm going to go back to, I feel that people with ADHD, now I'm learning that you have people that are born into it. Like my mom had it. My grandparents likely had it. They're not around to diagnose, but, and then you also can have environmental situations where, especially these kids now who are constantly being entertained and they don't know how to play creatively and they don't know how to just be still because they're so used to all of those images. So, both people like me or our age, where we didn't grow up with a phone in our hands, I'm sure that there's a higher incidence now due to the iPad kids, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I am a firm believer in that as well. And I agree with you, where the environment that we were shaped in, right? And the more and more I am on my journey and I research, I'm in a similar position as you, is I'm turning 40. And not until last year, and I have you to thank, really speaking with you at Women's Network and reading your book, it kind of like opened up all of these, I don't know, these doors and these channels for me, where I was like, oh, my mom has ADHD and she was never diagnosed. My grandmother, oh my gosh, I think she probably had ADHD. And then I'm looking at my sister and my brothers. And yes, and we grew up in a time where play was a thing. You weren't inside. My parents would kick us out any chance they got. They were sick of 4 children. So I just played my entire childhood. So it might have been missed in me because I wasn't in, no one was there to watch me to see if I had these criteria for ADHD. But to speak to your point, yeah, it's just now we're kind of confined where our neurodivergence, right, our ADHD symptoms, it's highlighted. There is a spotlight on us, especially if we are next to someone who has no neurodivergence. And now you put a neurodivergent kid in the classroom, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb because that's not the environment that their brain focuses in. It's not the environment where they shine in.
I'm going to also add to that. And that is that when I was growing up, I'm a little bit older than you, but we only thought that ADHD was hyperactive little boys. And so we didn't recognize inattentive ADHD. So we didn't see the perfectionist little girl or the girl that was talking too much or was twirling her hair or was picking at her skin. You know, we didn't see that because we didn't have criteria. And we're still in a place where we haven't, you know, really well defined, like the DSM-5 only talks about diagnostic in children. It hasn't even been updated to reflect adults or women. And it doesn't cover emotional dysregulation, which is, I'm really glad that we're talking about that today, because I haven't gotten as much into this because it's even come up since I went through coach training, how much the emotional dysregulation is a part of the challenges of executive functioning. So I would love to hear a little bit. Do you want to talk a little bit about, I always like to hear people's, like, their story of discovery, because it's something that then they can hear themselves in your story and then kind of go into your more of your clinical.
Oh, yeah. So my story with ADHD is something that is very, very new to me. Within, I'd say, probably a year is this self-discovery of my therapy journey. I am more somatically based in my practice. And the more and more I got into somatics, the more certifications that I got, the more I found, okay, breath work, somatic regulation techniques, my body and mind just gravitated towards it. And
can you explain somatic for people that might be hearing it for the first time?
yes. So somatics is more of sensations and the way that your body shows up. So it's through behaviors, through temperature, through feelings, through sensations in the body. So it's going deeper than just, okay, I'm touching my hands, to what is touching my hands doing to my nervous system? How is it feeling in my body? And how is it affecting my thoughts and my behavior? So it's kind of going underneath the surface. Like if I hear a loud noise and I can say, oh, I got scared. Well, somatics is my nervous system got activated. I felt tingly all over. I was jittery. My mind started racing. I even had a memory back when a loud noise happened and I thought I was in danger, or, you know, I was abused in some way. So really it takes you more into your nervous system, into your cellular responses.
Okay, well, thank you. That's a much better explanation.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So as I was going into my journey of that, I was like, why am I so closely tied to and attuned to somatics, and why does it work so well? And then I started having clients as a therapist talk more and more about their ADHD and autism. And as I was going over the criteria, I'm like, check. And I actually learned with them. And it was a really beautiful process for me, for the clients. And that started me on this journey of, well, do I meet the criteria for ADHD or ADD? How does it show up in me? And then I started thinking of my childhood. Well, I was always in trouble in school. I never got good grades. I was always the loner, but I loved playing. I interrupted class. You know, I got scolded all the time by my parents. And all of these revelations started coming up for me, and how it shows up in my current day practice. I am a perfectionist. I have a calendar, a checklist. I have an actual scheduler. I have reminders on my phone. I am in all of these projects. And then I started thinking, well, is that I do IFS, internal family systems, with my clients, which is working on parts of us that show up and take over to protect us in some way. Are these parts of me? Is it trauma? And that's when I saw how everything kind of intertwines and mingles. And that's why I'm so fascinated now, where I got to know all the things that has to do with ADHD or ADD.
Yeah, so I'm going to correct you because they are no longer using the term ADD. The DSM, I
Five.
think that's the one we're on now. Sorry. It now treats inattentive type or inattentive presentation or hyperactive presentation or combined. So
Um,
people would say, oh, I don't have ADHD, I have ADD, because they aren't quote unquote hyperactive. But what they're
mhm,
realizing is that it can be a brain that is just hyperactive, like that brain that just never stops. So one of the things that I learned about emotional dysregulation and the discovery that I was emotionally dysregulated is that I can't just be still. Like I have to always be doing something. If I have a day with nothing planned, I will literally feel it in my body. Like I don't feel comfortable with that. And I
mhm.
didn't know that was emotional dysregulation.
Yes. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. One of the things with emotional dysregulation, and something that, again, why I'm researching more and more and learning more and more, if we're talking about things that help individuals with ADHD, and maybe you can shine more light on this than I can, it's understanding there's a lot of cognitive exercises and a lot of routine modification that people can do. But I don't know if there's a lot of research. Again, this is where I'll need your help with, well, first it's regulating your nervous system, and then you can do the things. Because
Mhm.
if you have an activated nervous system,
Mhm.
then your brain might go offline. Goodbye executive functioning, problem solving, decision making skills. The impulsivity increases. And so it's really focusing, okay, well, is there a middle step that maybe people aren't aware of?
So the pause, I think that, it's getting to pause before you make that impulsive decision, before you take that impulsive action. I recently purchased the wrong date for an airline ticket for my daughter to go visit her sibling, and I had to pay the ADHD tax. Have you heard of the ADHD tax?
No.
No. So it's the tax that you pay when you have ADHD, when you make that little mistake, like you purchased something on the wrong day, or you forgot to cancel something, or you have unpaid subscriptions that just keep piling up, or food that expires, or you have to go out and buy more items because you couldn't find the one that you had. But I realized that had I paused, so now I came up with pause, process, press. So I don't do well with the pause. And so the awareness of the ADHD, knowing that this is a thing for me, that I am struggling with short-term memory. So like, for instance, if I go to the store and I know that I'm buying extra of something and something's going to have to be returned, I don't walk out of the store without putting it in my calendar when I'm going to go back to the store.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I'm so busy moving on to the next thing. And I also know how important exercise is and getting fresh air. And so, you can't be emotionally, from what I understand, is you need to move your body to move the thought. So if I'm like really charged up about something, I need to get out of my office. I need to get out of
Mhm.
that space and I need to move.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
I wish I could tell you I meditate. You saw my face, right? Oh,
Yeah,
it's
I am with you. I cannot meditate. That's why I really like doing breath work.
okay.
That's why I got trauma certified in breath work, because it's a constant movement and it's a constant flow. And you can go to different parts of your body. You can do different breathing techniques. You can hold your breath and release. So it's much more active than like sitting and meditating, which are great regulation techniques. But again, I'm right there with you. That's why I had to get certified in in these things in order to actually sit with it and put it into practice, because it's difficult when you get dysregulated. Your body can go into fight, flight, or freeze. Most of the time, individuals with ADHD, it's fight and flight. Your nervous system gets hyperactive. And then you want to do all the things or the distractions or the numbing to help regulate.
You know, it's so funny. I'm now realizing that when there's something overwhelming for me, and by the way, overwhelming for me could be like, just put this like thing together with using this step-by-step brochure that tells you how to do it. And I can feel the flooding in my body because it's going to slow me down, and I'm going to have to stop and I'm like, you can hear me describing it now, and I'm like almost stumbling with my words. So I have a question for you, because you are an accomplished woman. Would you say that you have imposter syndrome?
Oh my goodness, yes. Without a doubt, that is definitely a part that I battle with almost daily. I mean, even I know we met and you were just so lovely and inviting, but I had to literally every day for the last couple of days talk to myself like, no, it's okay. You're going to go and you're going to have a conversation on this podcast. Well, you just started learning about it. You're not certified in it. It's like, nope, we're going to have a conversation. That's all. That's what it's going to be. And whatever I can share and people might like, then that's what I can provide. Again, and that imposter chatter.
Nodding, right?
Oh my goodness.
And
Yeah.
it's consistent. It's such an ADHD thing. So I did an interview today. I did someone else's podcast. She has a PhD, and she was interviewing me for like what comes after retirement, and what is next, and has not been diagnosed with ADHD, and and she's a professor in the schools. And so she says, start describing what ADHD looks like to me. And then I start telling her, and she's just nodding her head, and she's nodding her head. And then I asked her about the imposter syndrome with her PhD, and she said, absolutely. And she goes, and I think I now need to come on your podcast. Because, so many of us are discovering that this is something we didn't even consider, because it looks so different. So I don't know a lot about trauma. I mean, I know a lot about trauma, but I don't know, like, if you interview me about ADHD, I can go. But I would love to hear, I don't even know what to ask you, Virginia. So tell me, keep in mind that the majority of the people that are listening to this podcast are women over 45. So you're a little young for our audience, but you have something to contribute. Who are suddenly realizing that they've lived their entire life with ADHD. And, a lot of them are getting diagnosed. A lot of them aren't, but they just want the tools. And there's a lot of the grief and the relief, the grief of, I wish I had known what my life had been like, but also the relief. I will say this, like, I even still am like, I thought it was just me. Like, we go around in the world operating, and we think we're the only ones having the experience that we're having. And that's one of the things I love about this podcast. Like, just saying to you, do you have imposter syndrome? Because I do too, and now we get to just let it out and be ourselves.
Yes. So if I were to describe trauma, well, there's a clinical way and then there's a lived experience way. The clinical way of describing trauma is a singular event that was life-threatening or caused such a significant distress that it created avoidant behaviors, cognitive dysfunctions, and arousal in an individual. So there's certain criteria that someone can meet. So it's saying, let's say you witnessed a car accident and, oh my gosh, your nervous system spiked. You started feeling sweaty, hot, you got jittery, you were wondering if those people were okay. And then you go to get into your car and you hesitate. And you start thinking, oh my gosh, well, am I going to get into a car accident? And let's say you take off and you drive. And the next day you go in and you get in your car and you're like, I don't know why I'm feeling the same way I felt witnessing that car accident. I don't know if I can drive. What if I get into a car accident? So that's a lived experience that got stored into your body. And think of it like a timestamp. What you experienced in that moment is timestamped. So you might relive that. You have hyperarousal, maybe flashbacks of the event. You start thinking about it more and more. Maybe you start feeling sad. You start maybe numbing, not feeling things at all. You start avoiding, let's say with that example, avoiding cars. You start avoiding your driving yourself. So there are certain things that can be time stamped on your body, on your timeline, and cognitively. That's what we would, and this is just such a short description of trauma. And with individuals throughout their lifespan can have trauma after trauma. Now that is called, which the DSM is starting to catch up, CPTSD. So complex PTSD, meaning you had a number of events and that stays longer with the person. That leads to grief, and that leads to self-disorganization, which means you start questioning yourself, the world, your identity, and your place in it because of those events.
And I could see where if you have a parent who has undiagnosed ADHD and they are emotionally dysregulated, how that could be one thing after another that could contribute. So again, we sort of agreed on that at the very beginning. I'm going to take a pause and I'm going to kind of turn the conversation around on you. And if you've listened to the podcast, you know that I always ask my guests if they could not have ADHD, if they would press that button and not have it. And I always like to hear people's responses. And it also is an opportunity for me to share the work that I do as the owner of Silver Linings Transitions. A lot of people don't know about move management and home. Well, they know about home organizing, but they don't know about move management. And moving is one of the biggest life stressors. And for people with ADHD who struggle with executive functioning, making decisions, all of the things, I like to make sure people know about my business. And of course, if you are listening to this podcast and you are enjoying it, I hope that you will share it with your friends and like it and subscribe to it. And then you can find me at jamishapiro.me. That's JAMISHAPIRO.me. And I offer coaching. And I guess this is a really good opportunity, Virginia, so we make sure we get it in to advertise what it is that you do locally before we come back and answer the button question.
Yes. So my group practice provides individual therapy, couples therapy, and adult family therapy. And we specialize in, as Jami shared, trauma, CPTSD, pathological love relationships, and many other ways to assist clients in their journey for mental health, healing, self-discovery. We are practicing all over California, and we are heavily insurance-based just because of the clientele that we have. So if you are searching for a therapist or someone to help support, guide you, have a space to be, you can reach out to the transcendingpathway.com and you can see if we accept your insurance or we offer sliding scale as well.
That, first of all, I want to acknowledge that because you're right. It is so hard to find good therapists who actually take insurance. So thank you for that. Okay, so we're going to take a pause. We're going to come back and we're going to talk button question. Okay, so have you had enough time to start to understand the good parts of ADHD before I ask you this question?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I want your honest answer. If you could press a button and not have ADHD, would you press that button?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. What's your favorite part of having ADHD?
It's a great question. So I know for some people, they, like Gabor Mate wrote a book, The Scattered Minds, I believe that's what it's called. And so I take the word scattered. Some people feel scattered with ADHD. For me, that is my superpower. My favorite part is I get to be in so many different projects and find so many different passions. And I love having a reach and being able to provide services and support in many different ways, because there's no one thing, no cookie cutter thing for an individual out there. So for me, having a wide range of projects and things on my plate, it just, for me, I get to reach so many more people, and my friends love it. My family love it. It's like, well, you find the best places or you always have the greatest activities. So it's a superpower for me.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like that word superpower because there are people who don't see it that way. So I always like to acknowledge that. But I would agree with you. I love that I can come up with solutions like this or, some funny thing to say. But I also want to acknowledge your sense of justice because we with ADHD, we have a very strong sense of social justice. And just by the fact that you're taking insurance, that you're trying to be aware of who your clientele are, that just goes to show another wonderful. I think it's an ADHD trait and also just wanting to help other people. Okay. Anything else you want to leave my listeners with that you feel like, because again, a lot of the people who are listening are going to be putting the pieces together. I read the book, Adult Child of Emotionally Immature Parent and ding, ding, ding. I have it was not my mom who checked every box. So yeah.
Yeah, so something to leave you with, if this sounded familiar to you, whether it's trauma or ADHD, asking yourself in the moments where I feel overwhelmed and I feel chaotic or I feel dysregulated, just do one exercise. It's a 4-part breath. Take a breath and release your throat. Second breath, release your chest. Third breath, release your stomach and your pelvic muscle. And then your fourth breath, just release everything. And notice, are you holding your breath? Were you bracing? Were you able to use those 4 breaths just to take a beat and regroup? So some somatic practice for everyone.
I love that. I'm going to just share, I feel like I carry a lot of my stress in my jaw. For me, I'm figured I'm here with you.
Yes. So there's 2 tools that you can use. You grab your pointer finger and your middle finger, and you put your ear in between, and you go from your jawbone up to the top of your ear, and you massage about 5 to 10 times.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take some breaths while you do it.
Okay.
And then you go to the other side, and that's stimulating your vagus nerve. It's massaging it, where a lot of times we clench our jaw and we hold tension and it gives us headaches. We hold it in our ears and our neck. So that's just a little stimulation to help kind of let your jaw take a breath.
I love it. I love it. Anything else you want to leave our listeners with who, again, probably have experienced some trauma, even if they didn't have some horrible, big T trauma, and just the little traumas that just added up, or the constantly feeling on edge because you were always disappointing somebody, or you could never rely on your memory, or you were constantly being criticized. Why can't you live up to your potential? And I mean, I know for me, one of the biggest ways it shows up is my rejection sensitivity. So I immediately go to the person who's calling me as something bad to say. I always go to the worst.
Yeah. So this is a statement that I like to tell individuals, and I have it on a sticky note. I'm trying to see if this is the one that I want to share. So it is not a you problem. It is a nervous system that never learned to feel safe. And in those moments, think of an anchoring statement or a grounding statement to remind yourself of that.
And what would be a good grounding statement for that? I think that's great.
So for me, one that I actually have it on my chain, and it's a more of a positive affirmation, but it's you are enough. So when that imposter comes up, or that self-doubt, or that negative inner dialogue, I remind myself I'm enough how I show up. And that's it. That's all I can do.
It's beautiful. I'm so glad that you showed up for me, authentically. I think it was a great conversation. I love when I really learn something, and I'm sure that our listeners did. And I always like to leave parting words, which is, I'm all about making the rest of your life the best of your life. And it is never too late to know yourself better and to really, truly The opinions expressed on Grandma Has ADHD podcast are those of our guests and hosts and are intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This podcast does not provide medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content discussed in this episode is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, mental health professional, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or mental health concern. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guests, and producers of Grandma Has ADHD do not assume any liability for the content of this podcast. Listen at your own discretion.